What I love the most is seeing someone just completely drop all of their inhibitions and just be there with me. And that's really, I think, where the magic comes from.
Hey friends, welcome back to Art Estate. I'm your host, Nicole Romanoff, and today I'm joined by someone I instantly clicked with, Toronto-based branding photographer, Shannon Willis. You are going to love this episode. Shannon has such a powerful way of talking about branding, photography, and building a business with intention. She gets into the real stuff, how she transitioned into photography later in life, why experience matters more than snapping pretty pictures, and how she crafts sessions that truly tell her clients' stories. We talk about editing, client experience, handling nerves on set, even gear and her favorite programs. But what I love most is how open and real she is. This episode is packed with insights for photographers and creatives who want to stand out, build trust, and grow their business with purpose. So grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready to totally be inspired by this conversation with Shannon Willis. Okay, Shannon.
Okay.
I'm so excited to have you here with me. This is awesome. I feel like we became fast friends.
We did. I've been following you for a while. And like I said, I always admire other photographers' work. So as soon as I saw your style and just your whole branding side of things, because that's my jam, I was in love instantly.
Aw, you're so sweet. Well, I can't wait to dive into that whole branding thing too, because I know that's kind of where you come from, right?
Yes.
The branding world? Yeah.
Yes, that's where I started. Well, I've had a bunch of different lives.
I can't wait to hear all about it.
Yeah.
So you're from Toronto.
I am.
And have you always been from Toronto?
I have, for the most part. I mean, northern parts of the city, just like 30 minutes outside, but my heart is in Toronto. It's just, it's such a bustling city. There's always something going on,
I love it.
New experience to, draw everybody's attention to. What I don't like now is the crowds, but it comes with the territory.
Right. I'm curious to know if that, the state of our world and economy right now, if I was thinking about Toronto and I was wondering if it'll be changing in the next couple of years, because I don't know what's going to happen, like with all this whole tariff business and whatnot.
Yeah.
If it's going to drive prices up so much that, like Toronto is already expensive. Are people going to want to leave, or I don't know.
This world is going somewhere, and I'm just one of those people that if it's not happening to me immediately or in my world, I shut the news off, because it just, you hear all of this stuff and you just end up with this anxiety that you're not sure where it's coming from. And you realize that you're just inundated with fear, or, what's happening that really has, of course, it's going to impact your bottom line at some point. But is it affecting me right now? Right. No, it's not.
I know.
So
we're all kind of like pawns in this game. Like we don't really have much control over anything that, like the decisions aren't up to us. They are, I guess, when we go and vote. But other than that, like we're just kind of sitting ducks.
That's why I just choose to, like, some people get so amped up about it, and they have their opinions and they want to debate it. And I kind of stay away from that and just kind of choose to talk about lighter things. Like photography.
Yeah, I know. It's such a polarized world. So it does seem like people either do have an opinion or don't. And
and they're fiercely loyal to their opinions too. Yeah. Like some people just want to debate, and I'm just like, I'm not for it.
Well, and the thing is, like, we're not going to change anybody's mind.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It's like, well, they've heard it all before, and they've dug their heels in, or we've dug our heels in too. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You do you. I'll do me.
Exactly. Do you find in Toronto that a lot of photographers, like you see a lot of photographers come and go due to maybe burnout, or like the price? Living in Toronto is more expensive. Like, isn't it one of the most expensive cities in Canada?
I think so. I mean, it's definitely gone up exponentially in terms of just living costs. For photographers, I don't know, we seem to be doing okay at the end of the day. I mean, we all have our own clientele. We all have our own skill set, and it's up to you what you do with it. So from a financial aspect and the price of things, I mean, studios seem to be pretty attainable in terms of pricing. It's just, it has to be the right client and the right fit for the client. So I don't see that from a studio like rental side of things. Equipment is equipment. That's never going to change. But yeah, I don't know. Photographers definitely come and go, but I think that's based on their tenacity to kind of roll through the challenges of life and just being able to focus on the end goal and the dream. We get to do what we love for a living. That to me is, I pinch myself that I get to do this. You know, it's been, I just love what I do, period.
How long have you been doing photography now?
Professionally, I've been doing photography for about 8 years now. Really, I've been doing photography my whole life. I mean, I can remember being like 6 years old and looking at, you know, all the magazines, and I've always been drawn to women and the different personalities that we all carry within us, you know? And so I remember from a very young age wanting to take pictures, looking at magazines and really studying them, studying pose, studying the clothing, the styling, all the things that go into what makes that photo. But I wanted to be a photographer when I was 18. And my family was not exactly on board. And so I went down a different path, and I went and kind of climbed the corporate ladder and realized at about 35 that I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I just want to do something that fulfills me. And yeah, I just kind of started running with it on the side. And then I just started getting more and more people interested in my process, interested, you know, they've had a great experience. Somebody's had a great experience and they've told their friends about it. You know, we all listen to what our friends recommend. And yeah, it just kind of started growing from there. And then from a branding perspective, I really started to focus on that in about 2020, because that's when I really was trying to develop a niche for myself. And I felt that branding was definitely it for me. I had worked at a branding agency with a girl who is, she is like a branding genius. The things that she comes up with and how she looks at things, she's like, what were they wearing? What was the smell of the room? She was very much all about the story. And some of the brands that she put together or made come to life, and how I got to see the whole process of how a brand kind of comes to be from just the story. And then the visuals kind of follow along after that. So I think that's definitely where my passion really comes from, is from the branding side and what I learned there.
That's awesome. I am a true believer in whatever. I believe that we're destined to do something or have more of an aptitude to do something. And I have a very similar story to you.
Oh.
Because I knew early on that I wanted to do photography. but I experienced some roadblocks. And so I went in another direction. But I do feel like the direction that I went gave me a whole other skill set that has made me a better photographer and a better business person.
Yeah.
So yeah, part of me does, looking at the young photographers who are just like killing it in their like early 20s. Yeah. And I felt a little bit behind, but I do like to hold on to that thought that now I do have, some extra skills that or like gifts or talents that I've received in that 10 years that maybe I like missed out on.
Absolutely. How to deal with people,
exactly.
That skill set, just in terms of feedback that I've gotten from other clients, they'll work with me and they'll be like, I didn't have an experience like this before. Like I really was kind of standing there. I didn't know what to do with myself. And that is mind blowing to me. But how to deal with people, how to connect with people, especially in a corporate world, you really have to have a certain demeanor. And I think that carries into each photography session from inception all the way to the final product. And I'm really grateful for that I have that in my back pocket. Because you're right, the younger ones, they've got oodles and oodles of talent. And I wish I had, some of their skill set. Like they're able to keep up with the ever changing new technical ways of doing things. And for me, I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I get intimidated, but they're so easy at just kind of putting it together. And I don't know, they have a better attention span, I guess, from learning how to do things from YouTube or however they've done it. But yeah, I'm jealous in that sense, but they need to learn. That's one thing I would tell a new photographer is how to interact with people and really kind of find your confidence that way, that they're coming to you for a specific reason and you really have to own it and own it from beginning to end.
That is such valuable advice. And I feel like it can only come from somebody who, has that sort of, I always use the word maturity. And I'm like, what other word? What other word can I use? I am too. But I do feel like that is your. Great? I think so. Yeah, I think so too. We actually kind of are like twinning in a way.
We are. The hair is definitely hairing.
We got a vibe. Yeah, the center part and everything. But
yeah.
But that is definitely your competitive advantage, right? It's people will come to you for that experience. They know that you get it. They know that you understand branding to a T, which I feel like is such a skill and an asset, because a lot of people will call themselves branding photographers, but do they actually understand at the heart of what branding is? And you're right, like branding from that mentor or that leader that you worked with, they understood that branding is everything like tangible, like what you smell, like
sight,
that experience.
Smell, all of your senses come into play when it comes to branding. And I think what I see out there with other brand photographers, well, branding really became a buzzword, I think even more so once we hit the pandemic, because all of these wedding photographers were suddenly out of business and they had to pivot. And I think you saw this influx of all of a sudden, there's somebody posing with a laptop and there's somebody posing with their cell phone. And, it's not just about that, it's about who they are, especially in the social media world. People want to know who you are, and you have to be able to let them kind of know who you are visually or through reels or whatever that may be. It's not just because you're a realtor that somebody's coming to you. It's not just because you're a life coach that they're coming to you. They're coming to you because they see what you're putting out there. They see who you are. And that's what draws people in. It's not just the image.
Right.
And that's really tricky, I think, to be able to tell a story of who that person is in a singular image. It's usually done through a series, but I think capturing someone's true essence and a true smile, regardless of who you are, let's say you're fierce and I'm working with a lot of coaches right now, and they are killing it in terms of how they coach other women in their businesses. And they each have their own persona. And you can't just make that person fit into every other image that you take. There's not this, it's not just a shot list. It's much more than that. And I think if people were a little bit more intentional, or some brand photographers were a little bit more intentional, that they might get a little bit further down the path than just shooting the same images that they see on a regular basis.
What is your process when you're hired for a branding shoot?
Well, I mean, from the very first inquiry, I definitely don't respond to any questions through an email. I want to see them. I want to talk to them, whether that's through Zoom or whether it's on a phone call. I always want to hear their voice. I want to get a good kind of sense of their goals. I think that's the other thing. It's like, do you have any promotions coming up? Do you have any projects coming up that you are wanting to have these images kind of match? Is there messaging? What's that messaging? Because I think the images need to be more intentional that way, so that the feed is like disrupted. It kind of makes you look a little further, like, oh, wait a minute, what's this about? So it starts with a conversation. I ask all of those questions. And then from there, I'm kind of a stalker.
Love it.
I really deep dive their Instagram feed. I deep dive their website. I try to find out as much information that I can. I'm looking at Google reviews. I'm seeing what people are saying about them. And then from there, that's really where my branding background comes into play, because I will look at certain colors. Let's say their logo's done. Let's say they love yellow. Well, then yellow needs to be incorporated, but that can't be all of it. You got to add yellow through, again, intentional, a yellow pencil. You know what I mean? Like, it has to all kind of come together. So I really plan it out. And then I send them kind of the plan ahead of time and go, hey, did I get it right? And they're usually blown away, because from there, it's not just a mood board. Like, I see the mood boards that people are putting out there, and some of them are like, they're great. I like people to feel, and it is a customized to them, who they are, and what the plan is. Through posing, you can get different kinds of vibes in there. If they're super serious, I'm not going to get them, standing there and giving me this big smile,
Right.
These are things you need to know. You have to know before you walk through those doors what your plan is. And it's not up to them to tell me how they want to be photographed. It's not up to them. I think some photographers want to hear what their vibe is. What do you want to, how do you want to look? How do and that's great. That's part of it. But does it work at the end of the day? Is it going to, give them that end result that they're kind of looking for? And they really want to just show up. They're nervous when they're getting in front of you. They have done all this prep work. They're taking time out of their day. Half the time, this is like a chore for them. These are all things that I take into consideration. So when they walk through my doors, or whatever door I'm in, studio, wherever we are, it's like, I'm on. Just be here with me. Just be. And I find that kind of takes it down a couple of notches, because the pressure isn't on them. It's on me. And the good news is that we've already established what that end result's going to be. So it's on me to deliver that. So I think that all of those things come into play. Like, I give them my cell phone number. If they're out and they're shopping and they're not sure what it is that they're going to wear for that day, I'm like, send me a picture. Like, I'm in it. I'm in it with them all the way through. And I think that's just what makes it more of a success and more of a seamless process for them. And it really is about the experience at the end of the day too. I think it's, if they've had a great experience, when they get their images, they're immediately brought right back to that awesome experience that they had, So it's a process. It's not just a show up and shoot. It's definitely a process from beginning to end for me.
Absolutely. Do you have any little tricks that you use to make people feel comfortable or
I can't give you that, Nicole.
Oh, come on. Slip you a few bucks.
Yeah. Okay. So the number one thing that I ask every single client, because I think it's really telling, is what kind of music do you listen to? Because music has a way of getting us in the mood, and if they'll be like, oh, I don't know. And I'll go, you're getting ready with your girls, or you're ready with your guys. You're going to a game, or you're having margarita night. You guys are having a good time. What are you listening to? And they'll usually kind of tell me. And then I know when they're walking in that they're walking into their vibe. If they're all over the place, that's great, because so am I musically. And I have a mix that I've put together for each of my shoots, and it really works. Like, it's, again, intentional. Every single part of my process is intentional.
It's like a good icebreaker.
It is. And then I do a laugh. I have a laugh.
Yeah.
And I have no idea where it came from. I'm surprised that I'm getting married because this laugh is awful. It's awful.
I want to hear it.
Oh, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. My real laugh isn't too far from it, but I get ridiculous. And it's so funny if I'm getting someone new in front of my lens and I do the laugh. I should do like a blooper reel of some of the initial images that I get, because they're like, like I've totally like, what is wrong with this girl? Yeah. But by the end, they're imitating it. And I'm apologizing the whole way through. I'm like, I'm so sorry. This is going to be in your nightmares. I apologize, but it works. It works.
It does work. Yeah.
It works. Yeah. I think everybody needs their little shtick.
I think so too. And honestly, if you start doing it and then it'll maybe surprise them, or like you realize what's happening, and so you actually start laughing even more, then they start laughing.
Right.
I don't know. It's just like this little like chain of events, or like, it like triggers things. So
it is.
I think that's a good one. And it does funny. Elicit like a natural reaction to.
Yeah. My makeup artist will like sometimes prep, them to be like, have you worked with Shannon before? Okay. So she's got you, don't worry. And she does this little trick. Like some of them, are well informed ahead of time. And then I'll get on set with some people that I've worked with before, and I'll try to dial it back, and they'll go, whoa, 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 whoa. Where's Shannon? This is like, are you like, where's the energy? Where's the, and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to tone it down, guys. I'm trying to turn a new leaf, and they're like, no, you've got to continue on with it. So that's what I do. I continue on with it.
That's right.
Makes me memorable, I think, with my clients. So
for sure.
It works.
Do you find you have a lot of repeat clients?
That is all I have, if I'm being honest with you. It's either repeat or it's referral. I haven't had... Thank God, I have not had to do a lot of self-promotion that way. It's been very organic, how I've grown my business. And I love that. I absolutely love that part, because it's so real, and it just kind of validates myself if I'm having a bad day, and somebody will say, because we all have them, somebody will say, oh, I got your number from so-and-so. And it's like, like if it's a little bit slower than it has been or whatnot. It keeps reinstating that I'm doing something right. I'm not looking at, my ROI on an ad that I've put out there. They're coming to me because somebody's had a great experience. So, and I love that.
And don't you find when it is a referral that it's just easier because, birds of a feather flock together. So if you had a really awesome client and then they tell people that person is probably very similar to the first client that you had. And so it kind of snowballs into this positive effect. You just know it's going to be good, right? There's almost like this trust that's there already.
Yes.
You don't have to break down that barrier as much. It's just kind of a bit more smooth sailing than if it was just somebody that found you off of Google, perhaps.
Yes. And those ones are still good too. Everyone kind of branches to another, and to me, that's the best way to be able to grow your business. Because referrals I've had people lately, which has been so refreshing, where some people will say, I saw your work and I've been following you for a while. Or, I saw this particular image and it really resonated with me, or you can tell that this is your work. I was blown away when I heard that, because I struggle so hard. I try so hard to be different than what's out there. And, when you hear that kind of feedback, it's like, okay, I'm going to keep going. I can do another day, and keep,
it
keep
encourages you to keep going. Yeah,
absolutely.
And we all need that. We all need that for sure.
Especially as creatives. So
yes,
it can be, imposter syndrome is a good thing. Just, no, it's not.
No. I really wanted to agree with you there, but I was like,
it's awful.
Imposter syndrome, it's the worst. Yeah.
And what I've been told is that it never goes away. It never, ever, ever goes away. So I'm trying to embrace it. I know, right?
I guess that's what kind of propels us and pushes us to keep trying and keeps us motivated. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah. It's like this little fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of like the fact that there won't be a point where you feel like you've made it. Like I know some people, that's what the goal is, but I want to continue to evolve and, flow through different stages of my business and take my time going through it and all the messy parts and all the awesome parts, because it's a story at the end of the day, and it gives that experience too. So.
Have you ever had a very challenging branding session?
There's not one in particular that comes to mind. I think when there are too many chefs in the kitchen, that's when it can kind of become an issue. Right. I think as a photographer, just in general, I've had some challenging experiences, whether that be, showing up and the lighting is terrible and you realize that your plan may not come to fruition. If you're wanting a particular vibe, you kind of have to wing it and, try some new things on the fly, which, luckily I've been okay in that sense. But when I say there's too many chefs in the kitchen, I like to take my clients through a flow. And sometimes when I'm taking them through a flow, if there's, let's say, a creative director or someone that's on set and they have a different idea and they'll interject with what I'm currently doing, they don't know where my head is going. And sometimes I'm doing things that might seem like I'm not going to get the end result, but I know in my mind I'm going to get the end result. So it's kind of rolling through other people's ideas and, different types of personalities that you kind of have to work with. And that can be challenging because they can interrupt your flow And then that kind of, you have to reset or start over. And when you know that you were on to something really great with that person, and, you know, it might not have seemed like it was going to go that way, but I knew it was going to go that way. So it's a trust factor too.
I know what you mean. I've had shoots, and what really gets me is when, if, for example, there's a pose that I've kind of helped somebody into or set their wardrobe a certain way, and then their friend comes over and they're like, why don't you do this? Or, and then adjusts their wardrobe, and it's like, oh, that looks absolutely terrible. But it just becomes an awkward situation, and I feel like it changes the energy too, because it does, you're right. Yeah. We do have a plan. If we know what we're doing, we've done this before.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's difficult when people that maybe don't have that experience are getting involved, or, you know, piping in when it really isn't their place. And so it kind of makes for an awkward situation.
See, what I do is, in that kind of scenario, is I'll shoot a couple of frames, and then
I do the same.
I'll show the back of camera, and that'll be like, I like it, but let's try to go this route. And then they're like, oh yeah, you're the expert. Don't worry about it. You know, and it's, you know, it kind of diffuses it a little bit.
They get their way. Yeah. Or and then most of the time I find that the person that's in front of the camera is waiting for you to almost interject anyways.
Because they
like,
already
I hired
trust
you. Yeah. And so they're kind of like giving you this look like, is this okay?
Yeah.
Or just
sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And so just allowing, like you said, take a couple frames, show back a camera, and then the person's like, okay, they understand, they step back.
Yeah.
How long are your branding sessions?
It really depends. Like, that's also a part of the discovery call with every client is, you know, what are you doing with these images? What's the end result? Are you doing a website? Are you doing a campaign? Do you just need a headshot? You know? So it kind of rolls from there. If somebody just needs a headshot, I usually just do an hour. I don't do anything less than an hour, just because for some people it takes some time for them to come off the ledge.
Yes.
You know, but I find by the end they're like, hey, what if we did a shot over here? And
right.
You know,
they don't want to leave.
Exactly. And that's what I always say. I'm like, you know, an hour your head is going to spin. Like, you're going to be like, what? It's over, and you're just kind of, you know, getting into it. So typically I find that my 2 hour gives me a lot of opportunity to create some variety. And it gives them a good amount of images. Like, it comes with 25 images, and I retouch. Some people don't retouch, and I really, I like to perfect the images. I like to, within reason, obviously, I certainly don't take it too far, but I think that's an added bonus for some people, because, you know, they're investing so much of their time and energy and thought process and makeup and hair and clothing sometimes. You know, it's like, I want them to have the best experience possible. So I'm certainly not slapping a preset on and saying, okay, see you later. I'm very hands-on about the work at the end result as well. So, you know, it takes some time to do the retouching. So, but what I'm finding is that almost with every shoot, I have a lot of clients that are ordering more images after the fact. And I love that, because the work is already done at that point. I've just given them more insight into a library of images that they can see them using further. You know, we'll do some of the faceless marketing that might not work for everybody. You know, I try to give different variety in terms of what they might use these images for. And that's the other thing. I think of what they might use these images for, because some people have no idea what they're going to do with the images at the end of the day. You know, there's so much that you can do with one singular image, that, especially now with, you know, people having the ability to use Canva and all those apps, you know, to really create their own stuff. So I really think about that end result. So that's why they end up purchasing more at the end of the day. But my 2 hours, the most sought after session, and it gives them probably, I work really fast as well when I am shooting. I know instinctively when I've gotten the shot. So I don't necessarily overshoot. I might overshoot just for little nuances in a certain pose or a certain setup. But I know when I've got the shot. So when I'm ready to call it and move on to the next outfit or, you know, next vibe, whatever that may be. So, yeah.
There definitely is a feeling, isn't there?
It is. Like, okay.
It is. Yeah, I think we've done all we can do here.
Exactly. And, you know, you want the client to, like, whenever I say, okay, we've got it, they're like, oh, okay. And then they're into the next outfit. Like, it really keeps the flow of the session going really fresh smoothly. Too. Yeah. And fresh. Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to say that your editing is beautiful. I was creeping on your page today.
Thank you.
And it is really beautiful. And I would say it's polished as well.
Thank you. I really strive for that. I try to give really almost a luxe feel to my images at the end of the day. So thank you. That is such a huge compliment coming from you. So
it comes through in your work.
Thank you.
You know?
Thank you.
And I'm curious about your process for editing.
So it has taken me, I want to say, I remember like 3 years ago, I would go through the editing process and I had, you know, I would use Lightroom, I would use Photoshop, and it would take me forever to get through a session. Mm-hmm. And then I became familiar with Capture One, and that changed my editing. It flipped it right on its head in terms of the control over the color output. They're always coming up with new ways. And of course, AI, you know, having some skills or some investing in certain technology that really just kind of enhances your workflow so that you're able to get through it faster. It's certainly not a click a button and you're done. I'm still very meticulous through it because there's just some things that AI doesn't know. In terms of, I know what the client actually looks like in front of me, and I know their features. I know a mole, you know, like there's just things that you can't just be like, poof, click a button and I'm done. You know, we've gotten much closer to that, and it certainly has sped up my process. So I'm finding that I'm using Evoto a little bit more, and it has really upped my game in terms of being able to deliver quality images and really fast. You know, it really helps me. It's in my arsenal of tools that I use. So it's a combination. I use Capture One, I use Evoto, and then I do finish off with Photoshop. So it's not just one particular program that I'm using. I use a bunch, but I've gotten so much faster through my editing process, and it's saved my shoulder from editing.
Tell us a little bit about Evoto.
Evoto it's a platform. I was introduced to it by a girlfriend of mine because I was another photographer, and I was just like, oh, it has taken me forever. Like, how do you know? And she's like, girl, try Evoto, you know? And she's like, she showed me a couple of images of the before and after, and it's just this quick little polish, you know? And I was blown away. So I really, I deep dove into it, and it thinks of all the things that as a photographer that are tedious from an editing standpoint, like stray hairs, for example. You know, hair has been like the bane of my existence when it comes from editing.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. And Evoto has, you know, they've got some AI capabilities in there. It's not perfect every time, but it certainly gets me to like 80% of the way.
So would you say it's different than, say, using generative fill in Photoshop? Or how is it?
Oh, yeah.
How would it be different? Okay.
Well, because generative fill, I mean, I've seen some nightmares using generative
Gnarly
fill.
stuff.
It's like, where did that guy come from? Like, who is that guy? It's a blank wall. Where does
Right.
in what world did I ask for a guy that's showing up behind you?
I
I just did
with
the
like
auto,
some like gnarly face too.
Yeah, or you see like weird things and you're like, no, that's not what I want. Evoto is basically, it scans my client from head to toe. That's the only way I can kind of describe it. Head to toe. Skin, you can focus on your 11 lines. You can focus on your forehead lines. You can focus on the marionette lines. You know, the things that, especially as women, neck wrinkles, the things that we are all very self-conscious of, that, you know, everybody says it when they're in front of a camera, like, oh, can you take care of this? Can you get rid of that? And, you know, and within reason, I used to do it a very lengthy way of getting through it, and my shoulder was hurting, my back was hurting because I was spending so much time on one image. So it does like a full scan from head to toe, hair, teeth, eyes, like the whole thing. And it really is, it's a great tool. Again, it's not click a button. You still have to manage it all the way through. But it also has batch capabilities. So you can start with one, like let's say you're doing one particular person. You kind of set it up for what you think you're going to need, and then you can batch it for all of their images. So it still uses the same purse. It is amazing. Honestly, it's Evoto, please sponsor me if you're watching this.
Yeah.
It certainly has been a game changer at the end of the day.
Wow.
So I do recommend it. I kind of am putting it out there, giving the tricks of my trade, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And then would bring that image into Photoshop. And what would you be doing in Photoshop? So let's start from that. So Capture One, you do your color grading.
Yep.
And then you bring it into
even Capture
Evoto.
One has some capabilities in there. You can select subjects, you can select backgrounds, you can,
Their
there's
AI masking is awesome.
Unbelievable. Honestly, Capture One is unmatched. I know that there's lots of people that love Lightroom, and Lightroom's great as well. I just don't feel that I have as much control in Lightroom as I do in Capture One.
I would agree.
I don't know if you feel that way, but that's certainly how I feel. Yeah. So when I'm bringing it in Capture One, I go into Evoto, and then I bring it into Photoshop. And in Photoshop, there's some things that Evoto misses. There could be a stray hair that's like kind of out, there could be, may not catch a stray hair that's coming across an eye. It may
Those ones are the worst.
They are.
They
are. Yeah. So I'm doing some healing in Photoshop. I definitely use generative fill for any object removal that I want to do. Like, it's great. You can just circle them all, everything, and just hit a button, and hopefully it gets it right. You might have to do it a couple of times, but and that's really where I finalize the image. I might bring it into Camera Raw if I see that there's maybe I might have missed a color, or I want to adjust at that end, but it really is, I don't think it's the same for every single client. I certainly look at every project individually, and these are just tools that I have that I use when I need them. Right. Topaz is another one. Sometimes as a photographer, we miss focus, and you don't see it until you're right up into the eyeball, and you're like, damn it, they've picked it, and it's kind of soft, So I have Topaz, as I have their AI capabilities to just kind of pop it right back into focus, and it saved me in a bunch of different ways.
Really?
On that
I've never heard
of
this program.
No?
Topaz. No.
Topaz.
Topaz.
Topaz, yeah. And they've got a bunch of different things, but they can recover face. Again, it's not always perfect. It's not always exact. You really still have to pay attention at the end of the day to the end results and make sure it doesn't look overdone. So,
right. What lens do you prefer to use, or do you use multiple lenses?
I'm multiple because, again, they each, and that's another thing, knowing your lenses and what they do at the end of the day. I love my 24 to 70. I think it is the most versatile. I know that's your favorite.
Yeah.
I love my 50. I love the Sigma lenses. I think they're a great brand. If you can't buy, whatever your camera is, Canon has, of course, some incredible. Are you You're Nikon though, aren't you?
No, girl.
Oh,
I'm
you're
Canon all the way.
Yeah, that's right. Canon. Sorry, guys. There's always that battle, right?
I know.
Yeah. But it really depends on what the end result is. Cause I love a 70 to 200 and, really getting in there and just softening the background of that person. And I don't know, they all do something different. So it depends on who I'm shooting.
Do you find that you pick one up more than the others?
My 50 is on majority of the time. If I'm in a really tight spot, I'll use my 24 to 70 because that just gives me a lot more versatility in a small space. But I love my 50. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of glass. And yeah. And I think that's where we all look as we do in front of the camera anyways. So there's not a lot of distortion. I mean, I love my 24 to 70, especially shooting wide and getting those really cool angles that I've been trying so hard to attain. Because that's always been my challenge lately, is to get those really cool crops. And, so I'm really pushing myself that way. But again, it's knowing your tools really and knowing how to use them. I'm definitely not a one and done. I'm all over the place in my craft. So
where do you, in terms of aperture, what do you like to shoot at?
I like my shots to be intact, like sharp. I like them sharp. It depends on where I'm shooting. I mean, sometimes I have to go, to 1.2, 1.4 just to get that light. But, I probably am at like 7.1, 5.6, 7.1. That's my sweet spot, I would think.
With natural light.
Oh, natural light is a little bit different. Natural light, again, it depends, right? If I'm using natural light, I don't like to open up wide. I find that that's where things just get really blurry and not sharp and tacked. So maybe 4 in and around there. Yeah. It's kind of the sweet spot. But again, sometimes we got to bump that ISO and everything changes.
Totally. So, right. And I know where you stand with grain.
I hate grain.
I remember.
I do. I mean, again, it depends, right? Like for branding, I don't think grain fits.
Suits it. Yeah.
For a wedding, it absolutely fits. It tells a story. Grain it affects your emotions, I think. But for branding, it doesn't fit, I don't think. Because nothing irritates me more than when, somebody zooms in and it's, you see it's not sharp. I'm just that person. Right. It drives me nuts.
That makes sense.
For me.
I get it. Yeah. So what's next for you, Shannon? Do you have any big goals that you want to achieve in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to be a part of a campaign. I remember when I was, I also worked at a marketing firm, and I really wanted at that point the Dove account. I wanted to work on the Dove account. Now, I was just an account manager at that point, but I love what Nix is doing. I love the realness of what they're putting out there. I'd love to be a part of a campaign like that. Like I'm so, I just want women to feel amazing in front of my lens and in my presence, and have them just let go. There's nothing like it when you see someone, a woman, that we're all so inundated with so many images on the regular, and it can make you feel really bad about yourself sometimes. And people that get in front of me or work with me, they're really, it's not every day that, unless you're a model, that you have a camera in front of your face, so it can be really intimidating. And what I love the most is seeing someone just completely, drop all of their inhibitions and just be there with me. And that's really, I think, where the magic comes from. So to be a part of a campaign
100%.
like that and seeing my work out there, oh my gosh, I would be over the moon. I'd love to be in a creative direction side of things, I think, eventually at one point. I think that there's a lot that I could add to the creative process just based on my background. I would love to be a mentor. I've had people reach out to me and say, can you teach me? I think I'd be a great teacher because I'm so real and open and
absolutely.
I want to help people. I had a lot of people help me, and I love to make sure that, you pay it
Something
forward.
special about sharing.
Yeah, exactly. When you get someone that is holding all the cards, they don't want to show you their hand, it's like, why? Like there's so much business out there to be had, and I just, it's always great to be able to help someone and see them, flourish at the end of the day. Like that's a huge win as a human, to pass along what you know.
Agree. Yeah. What advice would you like to pass on to people that were like you 8 years ago, just starting out?
Be a sponge, and you definitely don't know it all. Like that's something that, even when you think, like even in my craft now, I am still learning. I will forever be a student. And I think that's really important. And you got to reach further too. Like if you feel like you've hit some plateau, reach further. There's something else, out there. Evolve and just be a sponge. I think that's, and have the camera in your hands for God's sake. Don't just sit behind your computer and learn all this stuff. Shoot everything. That's really the only way that you're going to be able to learn and figure out what your niche is. Don't be, everything. All across the board. I'm a family photographer. I'm a baby photographer. I'm a maternity, pick a niche. You'll get a lot further, I think. Because some people don't know what they're coming to you for. Like, what am I coming to you for? You're a wedding photographer and you want to be a branding photographer, but I don't see any of that work. Like, how do you make that jump? You have to show what you're capable of,
Right.
But really, I think that was really, the biggest learning thing for me was niching down.
Me too.
Niching down.
It took me a long time. I think I had a lot of fear based on that. I had a fear that there wouldn't be enough work for me if I just focused on perhaps studio work, but it couldn't be more opposite.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shannon.
This has been awesome. Thank you so much. I could talk to you forever.
Oh, same here.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
How can people find you, follow you, get in touch with you?
Number one is Instagram. That is where I live. shannonwillis.ca. And then my website's in there if you wanted to send me an email or drop me a line on the contact form, or just send me a DM if you want to get in touch with me. I'm so open to any kind of conversation, especially if it's about all things photography that I absolutely love and adore. So,
And they'll love you as I do.
Oh, thank you.
Wasn't that just the best conversation? I hope you're feeling as inspired as I am right now. Shannon shared so many valuable insights on branding, client connection, and building a business that feels aligned and intentional. If anything resonated with you, be sure to check out her Instagram @shannonwillis.ca. And if this episode gave you something to think about or inspired you in any way, share it with a friend or leave a quick review. It truly means the world. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next week for the next Artist Date.